are you on your period or something? But relax. I was just joking, or it was just a joke. You're being too sensitive.
It's all about us, and it's time to bow down. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Bow Down. Dennis, as always, so lovely to see you. I am excited to be here having this conversation with you, and yeah, let's jump into it.
Yeah, it's so great to be here, looking lovely as always, and it's always my joy and genuinely my honor to spend this time together and hopefully share things with other people that are useful and helpful and
Yeah,
make your life just a little bit happier and better. Um, so we are this week, I think, sort of a continuation a little bit from last week, but sort of on
yeah.
the shoe on the other foot a little bit. Where um, last week we shared some things to say to piss men off. I believe what it was from a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful uh, TikTok creator who wrote a book, and uh, I'm doing the same, but with the other direction. So I believe this is let me get the exact title. I'm sorry. Uh, How to Piss Off Women, 120 Things to Say is the title of this book. And
I
again, I should
am
have
ready
the
to be
author. I
pissed off.
suppose. Oh, it's not by a person. It's by the Piss Off crew, apparently, whatever
Oh,
that is. So,
okay.
this ought to be good. I will say, I read through this. I haven't picked anything out in advance because I kind of think it's more fun to just fly by the seat of our pants. But I did read through
Yeah.
it. I have to say, I don't think it's quite as clever as no offense to the crew with a K, because it's Krew. Uh, or is it? Yes, it is the Krew. I thought it might have been the
Okay. Okay.
Krue or something, like a
Right.
fancy spelling, or Motley Crue. I don't know.
Right. Right.
But that's silly. Yeah, so I don't quite think these are as cute or clever as the ones that you read, but I think from a talk perspective, in some senses they're every bit as deep and powerful. So I think we'll like what we see here.
Yeah.
But I'm just sort of going to pick a few at random and love to see how you respond to this, and then I can give my perspective, because actually I'm going to pick ones that I've said in my relationships with women before,
Okay.
particularly when I was younger and dumber, and I'll cop to it. Like I was as fucked up as anybody, and
Sure.
certainly had pity parties and was manipulative and hopefully not that way nearly as much, but I mean, I'm human, so I'm not
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
But I thought I'd share some of the things that I've done and get your perspective and have some dialogue. Sound good?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. The
Awesome.
one thing that just occurred to me as we were talking about, placing the shoe on the other foot, I think one thing that both of us really have a vested interest in is like embodying the work that we're doing through how we structure this podcast and the conversations that we have. And so I'm really excited to tackle this from the other perspective. I do think it's interesting because I was trying to sit with when I was thinking about us doing this, like, why does it feel different to write a book called How to Piss Off Women versus writing a book called How to Piss Off Men? Because one feels better to me than the other one does. And I think it does go back to like punching up versus punching down. And when there's someone with power in the situation, it's like, okay, it's a little bit better to make fun of, like, in a workplace, if you and a bunch of colleagues are out, you're gonna joke around about your boss a little bit, and that's okay. But if you start joking around about your subordinates, then it feels a little wrong. And I think in this situation, when it comes to patriarchy, that was kind of the rub that I came to. But all that to say, totally agree with you about from a talk and discussion perspective, and this being a jumping off kind of prompt for us, I think it will be just as fruitful as a conversation. So I'm ready to be pissed off.
Okay, well let's do it. Okay, this is one that I know. Okay, so and again, I want to say that I think these Reese are definitely less clever, so they're not really funny. in the same way, but I think they're just as powerful. So this is
Yeah.
one um, that I will start with this one because this one popped up for me. But um, I don't know what you want me to say. And here's and I do think this, despite the weird name with the crew, uh, they give some commentary on this, and it is
Sure.
actually, I think it's decent what I'm reading. So try the truth, try an apology, try acknowledging her feelings, try taking responsibility. The options are endless, but they all require emotional effort, which explains your confusion. You're not stuck for words, you're stuck on caring enough to find them. And then it gives a hint, which is start with "I'm sorry" and see where that takes you. So, what are your thoughts?
Whoa. I actually really enjoy that commentary a lot. That i- the kind of why might you default to saying, I don't know what you want me to say? It does feel kind of like a cop out of digging into the emotional underbelly of what's going on in the situation. And as opposed to being the person that is going to dig in first and say, something vulnerable first, like an apology, it is, I'm not going to go there until you force me to go there, until you drag me there with you, um, you know, screaming and crying. Um, and I think that that is a really powerful commentary there. Also, with the phrase itself, I don't know what you want me to say. I will say, I think the reason why that might be so frustrating to women or people in general is probably because it seems when that comes as a response to something that it seems like you should know what's going on right now. And it usually probably is an apology that's like, well, what do you have to say for yourself? Or this hurt my feelings, or this did something. It's like, well, I don't know what you want me to say. It's like, just a dash of critical thinking would probably get you there. As opposed to, once again, offloading the emotional burden onto women to do the emotional labor for the man, to literally not just ask for the apology, but to do the emotional labor to get there and understand why you need to apologize too. Um, so I can see how this would piss someone off. I also will say I could see a situation where this is a fair statement too, in the sense that a lot of people play mind games. A lot of people are manipulative. And if you are in a situation where it's truly like, I don't know what you're looking for here and I'm confused, I would say honoring the, hey, I'm actually really confused and I would like some clarity on like the goal of this conversation or what I could do to help you. Or even, I know that this is kind of a popular um talking point right now in discourse, but like in friendships or relationships, it's like if someone starts venting to you saying, okay, are you looking for a safe place to vent? Are you looking for advice? Are you like, what do you need from me? So I can also see how like there's a way to say this that isn't completely dismissive. There's ways to use this for deepening a connection too.
Agreed. Yeah, I love, so lots of thoughts on what you just said. I think everything. I mean, you basically hit everything I wanted to touch on. So thank you, but not a surprise, of course. But number one, I guess I'll work backwards so I don't forget it. Number one, I agree, and I call it the 3H question, which is what you just. I'll restate it slightly differently, but it's how I
Yeah.
think about it in my mind. I ask the question, and again, I think it's different than the context here, but it's if somebody's saying something to you, sometimes I'll ask, do you want help? Do you want a hug, or do you just want me to hear? Like, is it
Mm,
are you looking for advice? So in other words, are you looking for just somebody to hug you? I mean, literally to just be there, or are you looking to somebody to just hear you out and let you vent? And there's probably other things, but I kind of look at it in that way, and I love that question so much. I don't know that would apply necessarily here because I think in this case
right.
it's, but I think that that's such great, and really we should all be thinking along those lines because too often we get trapped in what we want
Yeah.
So we assume when we tell somebody and I would wager most of the time I think we often fall into whatever mode is most comfortable for us. So
Yeah.
if we often like help, and men are guilty of this a lot, like just trying to solve the problem, right? And that your significant other comes home, had a bad day at work, and you immediately go into helper mode. Well, you could do this. Oh, you should do this. When maybe that's not what was needed or wanted or desired in that point, and it was just to sit and listen and maybe rub her feet or her back while she talks about it, or vice
Yeah.
versa. Just understanding versus but so we default to what we love because that's how we relationally see other people. But
Mhm.
if we can stop that and just take a moment and again, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I actually think that that's not the golden rule. Or if that is, then I'll give you the platinum rule, which is do unto others as they want to have done unto them. So in other
Yeah.
words, just because I want it done unto me doesn't mean you do. And understanding what your partner wants done to them, that's the platinum rule. So go above gold.
Yes.
Gold is do what you want may not work for somebody else. So I may always want advice, but that's not going to work for my partner. And so we get in this loop. So to ask that question, hey, in this moment, well, how can I best support you? How can I be useful? How can I energize? Do you just want my energy? Do you just want me? I mean, that's perfectly
Right.
valid. Just to sit here, that presence is so powerful. So
Yeah.
love that. Love that. I will also say, as somebody who is neurodivergent, the autistic part of me is like literally sometimes I really don't know what I did.
Yeah.
And that's where we get to the mind reading piece, which you said. Now
Yes.
there's times where I've said this where it was out of frustration, and there was times where I've said this out of honesty. Like literally, I
Yeah.
have no idea what I've done. Like you can sit and then, but the answer in the past has invariably been, you know what you did. Well, again, no, and so I caution women when they use that to be careful, and men too. If I don't want to be gender here, but I do think it's probably more often on the female side to the male, but that could happen in both ways. But you know, again, your significant other, your partner's not a mind reader,
Yeah.
and should they do a better job of reading your emotions? Yeah, I mean, but I do an excellent job of reading emotions. Like I can read emotions like a motherfucker. You want the honest truth? Like I generally know what people are feeling because I'm very pick up on that. The problem is I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I'm often that there's a very big disconnect in my mind as to how people like I sense something, but I don't know why, and I don't know. Sometimes I do. I might have a guess, but other times I have no idea. And so, you
Mhm.
know, no, again, if you're having the same conversation, if the same thing is coming up over and over and over again, like I mean, that's a different story. But check
Right.
yourself to make sure you're not assuming facts that aren't in evidence. And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you need to be. It's not your job to be the emotional tampon of the guy and be there for him to cover. To do for him what he. No, that's not your job. But if you think the guy's worth it, you should try this and see. And don't make the assumption that he's just being a dick. Maybe you can maybe assume he doesn't. You know, emotionally he's just closed off and doesn't know how to do this stuff. And again, that's your choice. How much you want to pour into to do that and
Right.
and
Right.
help him there. Like it's not your job to do it. However, if the guy's worth it and he's open to it, dude, you're probably shooting yourself in the foot if you're just going to be like, that's not my job and walk away. I think. Like I think there's a you have to be discerning though. Not everyone
Yes.
deserves it, but there are people who do. And if you have somebody who is teachable, who even if it takes a while to learn, if they genuinely are trying and you sense that, I definitely think it's worth your while to invest a little bit and see what happens. I'm not saying put every dollar you have in it, but throw a few bucks on it and see what happens. See if that investment grows. Um, but then you have the other side where it's just more of it's a way to just end the argument. I think for men, when I've said it out of frustration, like when I've said it non-genuinely, like literally I don't know what you're looking for here is one way, but it's more out of frustration, right? Like, oh, I just don't know what you want me to say. It is just a way to close off the conversation. It's like literally I'm done. This might as well just be let's talk later. I'm done. And for me personally, it happens when just I have no more spoons in terms of this emotional argument. I can say that as somebody
Sure.
who we've talked about this, and at this point I am shut down. And that
Yeah.
happens. And I try to expand my window of tolerance so that but there reaches a point, and it's gotten better and it does get better with practice, but sometimes you just reach the point where you
Everyone
shut
has
down.
that point. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone
And
has that point.
Yeah, and so, can you use this as a way? So I think this is an interesting one. I can understand though why it would be super frustrating, especially when you feel you've been saying the same thing over and over again, and your partner's just not listening. And this can
Mm,
sound like a, you know, uh, or, I think as it's presented here, like they do, your partner does something hurtful, like, oh, uh, I did, I, I didn't, you didn't, I ordered food and I didn't ask you what you wanted. And they've done that over and over again. And you've said repeatedly, that hurts my feelings. It makes you think you don't care about me. And you bring it up and you're like, hey, why didn't you order me? Why didn't you order me food when you ordered from McDonald's? Uh, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, well, yeah, that's a great place to say, "Oh, shit, I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd want it, but you're right. That was wrong of me. I was that was inconsiderate."
right.
So,
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, and I think listening to you talk about this, the thing that's really underlining a lot of these different points is just going one step deeper, right? Instead of making an assumption um or saying a surface level gut instinct thought that's maybe a little protective, go one step deeper and say, "Hey, I really am actually confused right now, and I would like some insight as to what you need from me," right? Or, like, with the help hug here, I love that, the 3H question. It's going that one step deeper and just acknowledging, like, okay, we normally have conversations here, but let's just go that one step deeper and really try and understand at least one more level of this interaction and engagement. And I think if you are like ready to bow out of a conversation, you've reached your emotional threshold and I'm activated and I am not in a good place to be handling this emotional intensity. I think I would also say, like, go instead of using a phrase like this to bow out of the conversation that could be inflammatory, go one step deeper and say, "Hey, I just hit my threshold. I would love to put a pin in this so we can continue, but I don't think I'm in a place to be a productive part of this conversation anymore." So yeah, I think all of this for me is just like, yeah, go that one step deeper. And if you truly are confused, be honest about the confusion and assume good intent, right? Like, I think that's also the other thing that you said that just is so powerful. Assume good intent, especially in your partner. And if you truly don't think they have good intent, you shouldn't be with them. You really shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like, if you are with a narcissist or somebody who is malevolent, which these folks do exist, I don't believe that their I am, their core is malevolent, but there's parts of them that, through the abuse, through trauma, through whatever, through life has caused them to become dangerous and toxic to some degree and poisonous. And um you're not under any obligation to let their poison you don't you just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean you should be poisoned. So again,
Right.
everything we say is assuming you have somebody who's not deliberately poisonous and
Yeah.
deliberately
Yeah.
gaslighting so
Exactly.
I don't want to ever, if you feel like you're a but I would also encourage you to talk to people that that are not your closest friends who are going to answer exactly what you want to hear. See if you
Yeah.
can get another perspective on, and if folks who, if everyone should have people in their lives, just as a general rule, who they might not want to hear what this person has to say, but it's good to get their perspective. Whether or not you act on it is another thing. But what you should have a council of rivals in some senses in your life where
Yeah.
you have people who will speak truth to you, that in their mind, I mean, again, that might not be your truth and you don't have to listen to them, but to get that perspective and to really open up to, like, if somebody you respect is really telling you, hey, I don't think this is right, you should listen to them or at least put some weight on it. So, and
Yeah.
by the same token, you know, don't believe TikTok and everything, and don't believe Reddit, and don't, talk to real human beings who, get a plethora of advice, but I don't know, like I think you can go off of either end too easily. There's a need to protect
Totally.
yourself, but you can also be wrong. So get counsel and make your best
Yes.
decision. Don't go at it alone. Don't go off half cocked and all of those things.
Yeah.
So
Get
very
out of
well
your
said.
echo
That is
chamber and maybe touch some grass while we're at it.
It's always getting outside, even if it's cold, can be very positive on your mental health. I will say, just
Yes.
getting a little bit of sun, that energy is super, super powerful. Well, great stuff. So let's go on to number two. And this is one I certainly have used in some form or another, whether I've said these words or energized these words through my body language and my attitude. But the quote is I work all day. Is what they have here. So you can imagine, I suspect, the context of this, right? Like, oh, hey, can you pick up your clothes? Well, I work all day, or could you do the laundry? Could you? I work all day. I work all day, and so I don't know. I'll just start there. So you're having a conversation. I don't know. Maybe you've asked me to do something, and I come back with this line. I work all day, and what does that bring
Yeah.
up for you? Could you put away the dishes? Let's say that you say that to me. Hey, you cook dinner even, let's say, and the dishes are in the sink. It's like, hey, could you put away the dishes there, or could you wash the dishes, please? Could you put them in the dishwasher? And I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. I work all day. What comes up for you?
Immediately, that implies that your partner doesn't. And
Or that
it's
what you
like,
do is more important, right? What you do is more
exactly.
important.
Your work is actual work. Your work is real work. Your work is more tiring, stress inducing, whatever, name it, right? And to me, this is one that just is a non-starter. If someone were to say that to me, I would be like, we can't have this conversation right now, because it just starts from such a baseline of disrespecting the other person's energy and time. Now, all that to say, yes, there are different types of work and different types of um, dynamics within households and within partnerships. But being at home all day is not working, right? So even if this is in the context of traditional stay-at-home mom or just stay-at-home partner and breadwinner guy who goes to work, even then, that's discounting mom duties as not being work, cleaning the house, keeping a household as not being work, which just from the get is like so disrespectful to that kind of work. But I think what conversation could be had here is, hey, I actually had a really hard day today and I'm pooped. Can I do the dishes tomorrow? It's like there is just such a more self-aware way to frame this that isn't devaluing the other person in them asking for help or support. And also, most households now are double income households. So to act as though someone else isn't working, like when there's the level of staying at home is still work. There are still things to be done and things that are being worked on. And that is valid work. But also, not every single day at an office corporate job is going to be the most stressful, like, worst day of your life. Some days, I know this because we've all seen it. We've all done it. Scrolling on your phone while you're sitting in your cubicle, and then you're going to come home and say you worked all day. Okay. What's your score on Royal Match then? What's your score on whatever little game you play when you go to the bathroom and, time theft or whatever? And I think the other thing that this underlines too is that the baseline framework of, like, you have to earn anything, right? And that's something that we've talked about before in terms of, like, no, everyone is inherently worthy, and you don't have to earn respect. You do not have to earn love, and you should not have to earn the baseline needs to survive. And to claim, like, well, I worked all day, as though that means you earn more. You earned more rest. You earned more slack. You earned more whatever. To me, that's kind of besides the point, because regardless of how much energy was expended on either partner expended that day, when it comes to household things and the partnership that you've built together, you help each other out. Some days you're going to be at 90 and your partner's going to be at 10. And the next day it's going to be 70-30. And you have to go back and forth and just be open and have a conversation about it. But that conversation cannot be open and honest and respectful if you do not start by respecting their level of work, whatever that looks like to them in that partnership.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, to see how you framed this when you say that. I mean, there's an underlying, there could absolutely be uh, a valid emotion, a valid thought. I am pooped from work. I'm exhausted. I hate doing dishes. Whatever it is, um, in this example. Now, so there's a valid thought underneath it, but the minute you say this, you've said exactly what you said. Like whether or not whether you're a homemaker or not, whether you work, the fact is you're treating what it immediately devalues, or it immediately elevates what I do over what
Yes.
you do, as if my work is what matters. You're just having a fun hobby. Could there be
Yeah.
situations where this is true? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there could be, but you know what? I mean, first of all, that relationship. I mean, to me, it's about communication, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have somebody who is doing 90% of the work in the relationship, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever, then that's a conversation. I mean, that's a conversation. This should be resolved ahead of that. Like that's to me
Yes.
about setting boundaries when it comes to what we're going to do. And I mean, I'm stuck on this dishes example because it's an easy, simple sort of thing. But
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, a successful relationship to me, there should be some understanding of like responsibility. Like what are the parameters here? What does this container look like? And there's some people using the dishes example. Okay, we have dishes. I'm exhausted from my day. You're exhausted from your day. Do we have a rule where if we're both exhausted, we just leave them in the sink and that's okay? For some people, it's okay to leave dishes in the sink. For other people, no, we're not gonna. I cannot have dirty dishes in the sink. It may and that's fair too. But it's about knowing the parameters around it.
Yes.
Um, and
Absolutely.
to
And
to
I
to
I
me,
want to highlight what you said about this should be a conversation beforehand. And I think so often arguments happen because conversations about what's going on in that circumstance happen right then in the moment, as opposed to beforehand when they should have been had in this, like, setting yourself up for success. Now, of course, you can't prepare for every instance, right? But how often are people in partnerships like, we're both tired, we got home from a long day, we had dinner plans with the in-laws, and we just got home, and one partner crawls into bed thinking, I'm done, I'm ready to go to sleep, and the other partner is like, okay, time for a conversation, when we are at the last slice of sanity, the last slice of, like, energy that we have, and I thought I was about to go to sleep, but you're ready to fight, and it's like, that is just not, like, conversational timing is so important. And if you're low on energy, you're activated, like, that is not a good time to be productive. And I think the same thing goes here. And that's why having this parameter of like, hey, I don't have the bandwidth to do the dishes right now. I just asked you to, and you said, I really don't have the bandwidth to do the dishes right now. Being able to be flexible and saying, hey, we'll leave them. It's okay. We're adults and we get to do dishes when we want to. Is like, we don't have to solve this problem right now.
yeah. And I mean, and I think where it might come up is like I could see it coming up like, oh, can you pick up the kid from soccer? Can you take Johnny to soccer practice or whatever the case is, or pick Johnny up from soccer practice? And and it's like, well, I work all day. Well, I mean, again, the child rearing is a two-person job. You're equal partners in this, and I know, some. I mean, now some families, the one parent wants to take on the bulk of the child rearing responsibilities in terms of, that, and that's okay. It's all, but again, there's no right answer here. How you split duties, it's everything goes. It can be from total trad wife to complete opposite, where the man does everything. Like there's nothing wrong with either of those as long as it's agreed and it's communicated and it's consensual and you know what you're getting in. Like communication is all it is. That's all we're you want. And furthermore, I think it behooves, uh, you know everybody in a relationship to understand what they want and what
Yes.
what they
Yeah.
are looking for. If when my mother remarried my stepfather, she basically said, "I don't cook and I don't clean. I'm just letting you know that. Like, you want somebody who cooks and cleans? We are
I'm
not
not
going to
your
work
girl.
because I don't want to do that. Like, I might cook occasionally if I choose to, and she did every now and again. But my point is she made that very clear, and my stepfather was like, "No problem, I got that." And they had a cleaning lady who came once a week to handle the heavy cleaning, and they ate out a lot because he didn't like cooking either for the most part unless it was on the grill. But he wasn't sitting there being passive aggressive and being like, "Oh well, you didn't cook it." She made that very clear. Like, what's wrong? Like, the world would be so much better. Relationships would be so much better if we just set
Yeah.
boundaries. So
Yep.
if you hate doing dishes, make that clear. Like, hey, I'm not going to do dishes. That you have to do the dishes, and I want you to do them when I want them done. I don't like dirty dishes in the sink. Sorry, that's the way I am. That's your job. Like, you accept that. No, I mean, at that point now, at least you're having a real conversation, right? Like,
Right.
yes, I can, or no, I can't. No, again,
Well,
we could sit here and argue, is that a way to be? Like, do you want to give up a
right. Right.
relationship over having dirty dishes in the sink? But my point is that's your choice. And if
Yes.
that's that important to you, if that's we all have our deal breakers, right? From the Saturday Night Live, that's a deal breaker, girls. Like, maybe that's a deal breaker for you. Cool.
Yeah.
But state it.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. And
guys,
I
don't use
think,
this "I work all day" bullshit. That's so nonsense. Like,
yeah,
it's so it's like a pat on the head. It's so dismissive when you say,
it,
it is just so
yeah.
dismissive. Like, "Oh, well, you went to your job, Oh, yeah, you did your job taking care of the kids today because you're whatever." Like, it's so dismissive. So, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, like you said, we can talk about like the underlying values beneath different boundaries and deal breakers, but ultimately, like, if it's a boundary for someone and that's a deal breaker for someone, you're not a good match and you shouldn't be together. And then you can move on with peace and love, right? Like, hey, clearly we're not a match on that front. And if someone else sets that boundary, then you have the information to make that call.
Agreed. Agreed. Love it. Okay, here's one that I think women have heard a lot of.
Uh-oh.
You're being too sensitive. So, what comes up for you when somebody pulls that out in a conversation with you, whether it's a significant other or even a guy friend, let's say? It doesn't even have to be uh this one could I think any woman hears this. I mean, first of all, I'm sure every woman on who's listening to this has heard this, I don't know, at least double digit times, probably more than that in their life, I'd wager. It could be triple
Oh, yeah.
digits, if not more.
Oh,
Uh,
I
uh
think mine, I would wager mine's at least triple digits about that because one, I'll own, I am a sensitive person. And I know that sometimes I can be too sensitive. However, this is never a productive thing to say when someone is being sensitive. Um, and the immediate thing that comes up for me when someone says, Reese, you're really being too sensitive, is I think you're not being sensitive enough. But why is one of those things inconvenient, but you are some arbiter of peace and justice in this situation?
yeah, agree completely. And you actually said so I hadn't read the blurb, but translation, your feelings are inconvenient for me right now. That's really what "you're being too sensitive" kind of means. Now, is there a way to are there times where, I mean, listen, we all are too sensitive sometimes. I mean, not too sensitive, but because you can't. But you're sensitive to the level you're sensitive. That's like saying, "Wow,
Right.
if you have a tooth pain, like you have you need a root canal or something." It's like saying, "Boy, your teeth are really sensitive." Like, no, it hurts the amount it hurts, dude.
It
Like,
hurts.
and in that moment, it fucking hurts. Like, an hour from now, it might not hurt in the same way. So, but in this moment, it is very sensitive. So to me, the question is, wow. So, I mean, the same question done differently, or I can think, hey, you're what I think somebody is trying to say here is, wow, this, this response does not does not appear to me to be proportional to the impulse that occurred. So something happened, and then there was there was an impulse, and then there was a response. And so I think what maybe a lot of I mean, what what I don't know that I've ever said these words. I probably have. I hope not. And because this to me is just the shittiest thing you could say to somebody. And
Yeah.
I might only realize it now. I probably didn't realize it 10 years ago, but I don't remember saying this a whole lot in general. But what it's really saying, what what you could say is, hey, I see that you are really, this is really touchy for you. This is really sensitive. You really are responding quite strongly here. And I'm curious what that's all about. I want to hold space for it because to me, it doesn't feel as big of an issue. But what you feel is what you feel. So can we talk about this? Because I don't like seeing you in distress like this. And this really has upset you. And I don't like that. And I want to acknowledge that. I mean, again, I don't know that everyone's going to say, but which of those two responses would be? How would you respond to you're being too sensitive, Reese, versus, wow, Reese, I noticed that this really hits you hard. What's going on? You say this doesn't seem to me to be that big. Tell me you want to share. Like I want to be here if you like. Which of those two is going to make you open up, and which makes you
Yeah.
feel good, and which makes you feel small?
Right. Right. I want to highlight the word that you used, curious, right? Like, I think absolutely saying you're being too sensitive highlights, actually, I don't understand what's going on. And for men, if they don't understand something, I think sometimes that can be so it's illogical, so it doesn't make sense, so you're in the wrong because I don't get it. And if I don't understand it and it doesn't make sense to me, then it must be wrong. When actually, there's two different versions of reality happening in a partnership. And just because your reality doesn't clock something doesn't mean that her reality is incorrect. And I would urge men to get curious about that. I want to understand your reality. I want to understand what's happening. I would caution men not to say it doesn't seem that big of a deal to me, because even though that may be true, I could still see that being hard to hear if someone's in the middle of feeling activated. But I would say, just like you said, holding space for that, and maybe even saying like, whoa, I'm confused about what just happened, but I want to understand, like, can you enlighten me as to what's going on here? Because I'm confused. And don't just jump to confusion means someone else is wrong because it doesn't make sense to me. It's like, no, if something doesn't make sense to you, like if you don't understand a math equation, you don't sit in the back of your algebra class and say, well, then that math equation's wrong and math actually doesn't work. No, you raise your hand and you ask the teacher. Same thing here. If you don't understand the emotional reaction, you don't sit there and say, well, then it must be a stupid reaction. No, ask, hey, what's going on? I would love to be a part of whatever you're going through. And that's going to open up the conversation as opposed to just way shut it down. And also, telling someone they're being too sensitive or they're being too mad or that they need to calm down is the quickest way to make them more reactive, more angry, and react even bigger. And it's just so unproductive. And I completely agree with the blurb, is that it's completely saying, I don't want to deal with this right now. So you need to pack it in, as opposed
could you be a little
to
quiet? You're wrong for feeling this way.
exactly.
Is really what it is. Like
Yeah.
you, it is unbecoming. It is unbecoming that this. And what came to my mind as you were talking is like, imagine every time you heard a car horn honk, whatever that frequency is, like there was a ridiculously painful explosion in your brain, and no one else can see it, right? Like, but you go around and things are fine. You're a normal human being. But if that frequency comes with a Toyota Celica horn honks, like literally your head explodes inside. And so now you're with somebody, you're just walking on the street with a friend or whatever, and you hear that horn and your head explodes, and they see you drop on, and they're like, "What's," you know, that's the sort of thing. Like, I think they say, "Wow, you're so sensitive." No, like they see you in obvious pain, like, "Oh my God, what's going on? I don't."
And they
Oh, it
might
was
be
the horn.
confused and say,
Right.
"What just
But would
happened?"
you say, right, if you saw me fall to the ground on my knees and start holding my head and shaking, your first response isn't be, "Wow, you're so sensitive." You're gonna be like, "What the hell's going on?" But yet,
Exactly.
when somebody comes and has that reaction emotionally to something, right? Something somebody said, or, whatever, a circumstance that occurred, they got yelled at by their boss, whatever it was, and you're like, "Oh, you're too sensitive." Like, why don't you, obviously there's a part of them that to them it is like that earthquake because they have this such a strong response to it. Like, that's there's a reason they have that. Be curious about the reason instead of
Yeah.
condemning be open that your understanding is not, you don't even have to understand it, frankly. I mean, the person can share with you why they were so upset or they don't, but you don't have to understand it to respect the fact that they have a reason for feeling that way, damn it. And it's not their obligation to explain it to you to your satisfaction as to why they feel the way they fucking feel. Like, accept the way
Also that.
your significant other feels, accept the way your partner, your I mean, could it be that there's hormones involved? Yeah, probably, because there's hormones involved in every single thing of every single day of each of our lives, of every man, woman, child, dog, cat. Like, hormones basically control everything in our body. So,
Yep.
which would lead me to the next one, which I think you know what it is
Uh-oh.
because we've talked about it
Uh-oh.
before. But let's make sure we're done with this one though, and I feel like we've hit it pretty well. But
Yeah.
um, to me, again, I think if you can just look at it, particularly for the guys, and I'll just speak to folks who maybe were like me, similar to me in the past, the way I was, like, when you see it differently, when you see it that this is when somebody has a strong, intense response to something that you don't understand, just notice when you try to make that default, I don't want to deal with this.
Right. The
Because
only So sorry. The only
no,
other
go.
thing that I wanted to highlight about this too that came up as you were talking is absolutely agree. Also, if the explanation still doesn't make sense to you, doesn't mean their emotions aren't valid, and you should care more about their feelings than whether or not they're quote unquote right to have them. But also, where is your response of shutting it down coming from? It could be a place of when I feel really big feelings, I pack it in, I lock it in, I suppress it, I shut it down, and I deal with all of that inside, internally, in here. But I'm not going to be, loud and obnoxious and vomit my feelings all over to someone else. I'm going to deal with them. Um, I would ask, is that the healthy way to deal with them? And actually, like, I don't want to use the word jealousy, but is there something there that is also, hey, guys, or anyone that would say this, you're also allowed to be sensitive. You're also allowed to have these feelings. And I think sometimes it could come from a place of like, well, I don't have these big reactions. I would never do this. So why are you allowed to have these big reactions and do this? You are allowed to have big reactions, and you are allowed to be sensitive too. And so it's also not just well, I would never do it. And maybe you don't want to, and that's fine. But that doesn't mean someone else doesn't get to, just because you've decided to lock your emotions away to deal with privately.
Absolutely. So true. And and by the way, you can have big, just on the to play the other side, or not even play the other side, but having big emotions and being is fine. But if you start to move into the realm of hitting or throwing things, or that those are not responses that somebody has to tell. Like, you can have big
Right.
feelings and be sensitive. You're not allowed to hit me, no matter how big
Yes.
those feelings are, no matter what I did. Uh,
Correct.
that's and so I think lines do get blurred there because listen,
Yeah.
not everybody, both men and women, I mean, men are violent, but I've seen a lot of violent women too who think throwing is and hitting and kicking and is also not, none of those are okay. Your
Ever.
feelings are
Yeah.
valid, but you aren't, what you choose to do with those feelings in terms of how it harm somebody else, that's a line. Like, you are not
Yep.
allowed to hit me. You are not allowed to throw things at, like we can need to take physical violence and anything like that
Totally different
and pull it
category.
away.
Yep.
Totally different category. Yeah, absolutely. So, um, awesome, awesome. All right, so here we go. You knew this one was coming, and there's actually in here a few times, but are you on your period or something? Or even worse, I think, would be, "Are you on the rag?" Which to me is the most dismissive kind of comment you could possibly make, frankly. That is, I don't know why, and I'm curious if it lands that way for you, but let me read what they said here only because it's kind of funny. So, bold move, like throwing a lit match into a fireworks factory and asking, "Why is it so loud in here?" No comeback you give will save you now. You're no longer in a conversation. You're in a trial, and you just confessed to the crime while insulting the judge. You know, danger level
Yeah.
maximum. Proceed only if you enjoy sleeping alone.
Yeah. I love you just confessed to the crime while insulting the judge. Like, yeah, absolutely.
And I
And
really would love to hear from this because as a guy, I do not there's something in this world I will never understand, and that is what it feels like to go through what a woman goes through on a monthly cycle, in her monthly cycle. I will not know what that feels like. There's no way of understanding, I mean, physically, pain-wise, sure, I had a kidney stone. I suspect that maybe that's sort of similar in somewhere in the ballpark of maybe what it feels like for some women, but that's just physical anyway. Like, I don't understand the emotional. I don't understand the how it affects you spiritually even. I think it's a huge deal. So,
yeah,
to me, this is just very dismissive and basically just saying, "You're an entirely different creature. I have no way of understanding who you are." And I mean, I think that's complete nonsense, by the way, but it's basically reducing you to, I mean, basically your function, right, of procreation in some senses, like, because that's what this cycle is all about, to me. But I want to know, enough of me talking. What does it bring up for you, and yeah, just hit me.
yeah, yeah. I think, ooh, there's so much here. So, one, in terms of like the actual experience, I completely agree. This is something that I didn't really understand when I was younger, but as I've gotten older and like really tapped into what divine femininity means to me and what womanhood means to me, it has become a deeply spiritual thing for me. And it has become a it's kind of sacred in a way because it is proof of the miracle that is a woman's body, right? And the fact that we have this machine that is able to do this completely with like organic material, create life, is just so sacred and so miraculous. And even as someone who doesn't really want to have kids, it is still a part of like your relationship to your body and to its capacity and to its abilities is still so intimate. And knowing that I have the ability to literally, quite literally create life and play God is just like, should be so honored and respected. So, agree that it's like there is this spiritual thing to it. I don't think every woman has that, but for me, it has become more that. With that, it's also a huge inconvenience. It's annoying. It sucks. And also, it's expensive. The amount of products that you have to purchase and buy to be a person with a period is insane. On top of this, if you want to be extra safe and careful with what you're putting inside of your body, there is bleach that is put in most tampons. There are like horrifying chemicals that are put in most tampons. So not only is your average grocery store brand still going to be pretty expensive, and you're probably going to need, like, depending on your flow and your experience with your period, at least one box per every period, which is around 15 bucks. Um, Most people, I would say, probably need more than that. Um, If you want to up level and get organic, clean, safe stuff that like is minimal ingredients, you're looking at $20-$30, and it very quickly becomes a class issue and a socioeconomic issue. And I think in relationship to this statement that is, what are you on your period or something, minimizes the physical experience to an emotional one. And it is both and. And yes, most women do experience some form of being a little bit more sensitive or being a little bit quicker to cry. Not every woman has that, let's be clear. But usually, I mean, we've all heard PMS. It literally stands for premenstrual not premenstrual cycle. What's the S stand for? Syndrome. Premenstrual syndrome. It usually happens a few days before your period actually hits. So, because that's when your hormones kick up to then trigger this internal system to start. So not only is saying, what are you on your period? Just vastly dismissive. Also, biologically incorrect, because by the time a woman is actually on her period, the emotional aspect of it is probably gone. Like, if she is on her period, she would have been more emotional about a week ago. So, like, with all that to say,
right.
Even then, if someone is more emotional through and with and on their period, okay, so what? Why is that an excuse to dismiss someone else's feelings? Those feelings are still there. Her experience is still her experience. And then the last thing I'll add here is also, with the weight that motherhood carries in our society and the expectation that women have to want to be moms and to need to be moms and to need to procreate, and it's expected that you want to do all these things. For that to also be one of the most shamed, disgusting, like gross, horrifying things is just such cognitive dissonance and is completely illogical and just shows the disdain that people have for women in general, if you are someone who is disgusted by this, because societally, the amount of necessity that we have and we place on a woman's period, and then we literally force women to pay buttloads of money to be able to just be a woman, but on top of that, shame them. If you see someone like I know all of the secrets and tricks where you put a tampon in your sleeve when you go to the bathroom, or if someone's carrying their purse to the bathroom and everyone's like, oh, someone's on their period, or all of the things you have to do in and around it to try and keep it a secret, and not being able to say the word tampon or the word period around men because it's gross. And it's like, oh, and it's blood. And if something were to happen, it's like, oh, is that normal blood or is that period blood? Like somehow that makes it different. So yes, all that to say, I just have such a deep issue with the cognitive dissonance there. Sorry.
No, I what you just said was shocking. I mean, again, so interesting to me, I guess. We should probably do an entire episode on this, actually.
Yeah, we should.
Honestly, I mean, because one thing I did want to bring up is that 5 to 8% of women suffer from PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, where it's literally their periods are so painful and have such physical and emotional symptoms that it can be debilitating, and that's 5 to 8%. So 1 out of 12 women, has that. So in a classroom with 24 people, 12 of which are women, one of them probably has this, where periods are literally debilitating from a physical and an emotional perspective. Like and I've read accounts of women with this disorder, and it's terrible. I mean, it sounds like hell on earth, and yet they're punished for it. But is there maybe I should know this, I guess, but like you said something that was very interesting, which was like, oh, is that period blood versus blood? Like, why, what? Like, people, like, that's something that guys, I missed the wagon on this one. I'm just going to be honest. Like, I don't, blood is blood, neither of which grosses me out. And if anything, I feel like maybe it's my sacred bent, but like period blood seems less gross because it's like sacred and it's life and
Well, it
it's part
also,
of,
like,
there's
it
something like
does
holy,
feel
about it.
cleaner in some
uh,
sense, even though but there is the sense that it's, like, dirtier, I think. That has only been said to me or happened to me in, intimate contexts where it's
oh,
like, "Oh, it could be wait, what's happening? Are you on your period and you didn't tell me?" And it's like, I why wouldn't I tell you that? One, if we are entering into like a consensual intimate experience, like that is a part of like information disclosure that I think is important. Um but where things happen, and bodies are bodies, and when you are in the middle of like being physically close with someone, like the human body is vastly confusing. And this idea that it's like, wait, did you just start your period? And it's like, maybe. I don't know. I wasn't supposed to. I would have told you, but I don't have control over that. I can't suck it in. Like, sorry. Like that's what you get
oh wait,
for
sorry about that.
for for
Dating a woman.
wanting no, literally. It's like you're welcome. Like what? So that's only been said to me in very specific contexts, but
Mm.
even then, I think that there is just this idea of like dirtiness or uncleanliness around it that I am
But
like,
yeah, look at Jewish law, right? Like
right,
you're unclean when you're on you're not allowed to be with the other people. You're unclean, and
yeah,
I mean, so it's clearly something that's been around forever. This idea of having your period being unclean, and I think I don't that needs to be reclaimed. I don't know how, and it's not
yeah,
my it's not my table in some senses, but I'm fully supportive. So if folks have ways I can help, let me know because I think this is garbage. Like that
yeah,
anyone should be. And I know, like like wearing stuff around. If you forget about it, like if you don't have a stuff with you, like you could stain your pants or your skirt and how terrible that is, and like having to wear a jacket around your midsection. Like I know there's all these like secret things that women do, and
yeah,
I guess there's a part of me that's just sad that it has to be so secret
yeah.
because every single woman on earth has this issue. And yet for the sake of men, like, what are we, so babies we can't handle a little bit of blood? Like, really? Like, it makes
Well, and
it
also,
makes no sense. I'm confused as hell. I got to be honest, but
yeah,
whatever. Maybe
you
that's
want to
my
talk
autistic
about
side. I don't.
you want to talk about like sensitivity, it's also like a painful experience. And to say something like, "Oh, what are you on your period?" It's very like you're walking around people that are on their period every single day, and you do not know. You would never know. And women, men, like there's also plenty of men that also experience periods, right? Like that happens. And for this to just be some like, oh, well, I learned about this information or I don't know what's going on with you. It's like, you're not some werewolf. You don't drastically change who you are. You're actually around people that are experiencing this every single day, and you are just never aware of it because it does not impact you or affect you at all until you want to be an asshole. um, and
Yeah, I think like
yeah,
there should be some sort of a device that men can wear to get what sort of at least the physical piece feels like. Like I honestly
yeah,
feel like if guys like that should just be a prerequisite. Like you want to be in a relationship with me, you need to experience what I go through so you have some empathy at least
there's
from a physical
there's a
perspective. Like that would
few
be interesting. I would do that. I would totally experience that for probably 10 minutes before I got, if I made it 10 minutes, it'd probably be a wild thing. I don't know. It sounds incredibly painful, but
there's a few like the patches that you can put on for like muscle stimulation. There's a few things
mm,
like that I've seen like through YouTube videos and stuff of people like experimenting what it feels like to actually have a period. And the thing with that is also it's not like it's really hard to replicate that experience. You can replicate the level of pain, but the type of pain is just so different.
Yeah,
But I
sure,
also
sure, of
wanted to go
course.
back to the PMDD that you brought up because that is so true. And that's 5 to 6% of women, which is like, that's a good chunk of women. Also, PCOS is a
Mm,
extremely common syndrome that more and more and more women are being diagnosed with. It used to be like 30% of women have it. I don't know how much it is now, but I would be shocked if it's still that statistic because in my girl group, I think there's like 8 of us and like 6 of us have been diagnosed with PCOS. So the other thing with that too is like no one woman's body, no one woman's hormones, no one woman's experience with it is the same. And everything is going to be different and unpredictable with it because truly, unless you're on some sort of medication that is artificially um, regulating your period, you can predict it as much as you want, but bodies are so confusing and complicated, and it's really rare for women not on birth control to actually know exactly when their period is going to hit. I know for me, for
mm.
the longest time, because of my PCOS, I would maybe get 3 or 4 a year, and I just didn't know. I just didn't know when it was gonna happen, and so you just always have to be
Surprise!
prepared. Yeah, and it's
Jesus.
like and that's part of why a lot of women choose to go on birth control, so it can also be like, "Okay, I can prepare for this, I know when it's happening, we can plan around it, whatever," but that also comes with the sacrifice of pumping your body full of other hormones that do not have enough research around them, and we do not have enough knowledge around long-term effects to women's bodies. Now, all that to say, birth control is an amazing thing, and it's actually, I learned this in Melinda Gates' book, The Moment of Lift. Giving women access to birth control is the quickest way to take a third world country to a first world country. Like, it is truly a beautiful, beautiful thing, but we need more research and knowledge around it. And so, all that to say, I think the thing that makes me the most mad when someone attributes any sort of experience to having a period, especially if they don't have one, is that you have no idea what this experience is like. You do not understand, like, what it's like also to have the pressure of being a woman and be told that this is the one thing that makes you valuable, but also everything that goes into this thing that makes you valuable is also the thing that makes you disgusting and emotional and
And
difficult to
dirty.
deal
Oh,
with.
yeah, yeah.
And it is
Wow,
just the
wow.
biggest fu to women in my
You're
mind
right, it
because
is,
it's
it
like
is.
you don't get to have one, you shouldn't get to have either of those because fuck you, I get to do what I want with my body, but two, you certainly don't get to have both of those.
Yeah. Yeah, and now birth control's even under attack. I saw at, there's a doctor at Virginia Tech where he sent an email to his patients that, "Oh, I'm no longer prescribing birth control because I don't believe in it." And and it's like, what an ignorant he should be, named and shamed as far as I'm concerned, because
Yeah.
fine, you don't wanna do abortifacient drugs, okay. I can get where you're coming from with that morally. Um, but birth control is something that is not just used to have wanton sex, which is clearly what this idiot thinks. But it's to give freedom to to women who do have PCOS, or who have PMDD, or who otherwise whose body. I mean, I will say this: for such a beautiful system, it certainly has a lot of it needs a lot of maintenance. Like, I know so many women
Yeah.
with endometriosis, and like everything connected with the reproductive system just like
It's
like
so
just seems to
delicate.
explode. Like, yeah, it sucks in that sense.
And I
I do
wonder,
wish that it was better.
yeah, and I do wonder how much of that is because of the level of food and the type of drugs that we're all given, you know? It's like, how does that affect women's reproductive systems? We don't know because
Yeah,
most
all the
medical
hormones and
research
food. Yeah.
Yeah, and most medical research is done on groups of men. And so it's really difficult to have this level of research and um get funding for it too, because all the people, well, of course we could get into the politics behind it, but it is really so disheartening. And the thing that you said with like it giving women freedom, being on birth control for me now is something that I have heavily considered getting off of, because I'm like, is this something that I really need to do? Like, I'm not in a relationship. I'm not like worried about certain things and whatever. But also, in the back of my mind, there is, what if the worst happens? I get raped. Hey, at least I have this as a backup plan. And that's one thing I won't have to worry about. Like, that is another thing in my mind, especially when traveling or especially while in college. It was like, you know, better safe than sorry. Even though that means I have to deal with all of these other repercussions, hey, that's one thing that if this horribly traumatic experience happens to me, I don't want to worry about also getting pregnant.
Well, yeah,
And
which
that's
just
a,
takes it up a notch, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Like I mean, as awful of an experience as it is, now you add that entire hell of now what do I do? Do I take pills to get rid of the baby? I mean, just you
yeah,
take the worst experience of your life and magnify it. At least that's
yep,
one less, one less thing, I suppose.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's a
exactly.
but that even just that frame of mind to have that, well, at least, just that it saddens me that you had to think about that and you were wise to think about it. That's the worst part.
Yeah,
Honestly. I mean, that's what horrifies me inside more than anything else. That calculus had to cross your brain. Like,
right.
well, it's got these side effects, but at least if I get raped, I won't have to bear a rape baby or deal with not bearing a rape baby. I mean,
Right. Or the
that's
guilt
that's
around the choice to
right. This
keep the
innocent
pregnancy
child,
or
which really
not.
had
Yeah.
nothing to do with it. I mean, just all of it, all of it. Yeah, no, wow, that's something I hadn't even thought of. But yeah, so and this whole restricting uh birth control is so awful. Like
Yeah.
I can't.
Well, and
It pisses me
also
off every time I see it.
there's so much misinformation out there too. Like IEDs, or sorry, not IEDs, IUDs perform in the same way that the morning after pill does. And a lot of very religious people don't know that and have IUDs, but swear they're like, but we need to put restrictions on the morning after pill. It's like, well, hang on. Actually, you're not informed about how the hormone levels of these things work. And having an IUD is a privilege because that is an expensive medical procedure. But how many women, especially again, it's very much a class issue too. They don't have access to birth control and don't have access to IUDs, rely on the morning after pill for worst case scenarios. Like, it's not just people, like you said, no one's having fun abortions. Like, that's not a thing that's happening. No one's like, you know what'd be a really fun thing to do this weekend?
Yeah, right.
No. Anyone
God,
that
crazy idea.
right,
Let's go to the abortion
right.
clinic. Sounds like fun.
And so I
Ah.
guess to tie this back into this statement from the text, I think what I just want to say is like, obviously we've gone on a bit of a tangent here, but clearly all of these things that are tied into women's reproductive health and all of these things that are encapsulated in the word period could, like, for someone to then say something so dismissive when clearly there is this entire world, this entire level of baggage that we are having to deal with and carry that you don't understand, just makes it feel so much more dismissive when you say it, because like, this is a burden. It's an invisible burden that every woman carries, that when a man says something dismissive like this, it's like saying, you're not carrying this extra 50-pound piece of luggage. That's I think why it is so hurtful and so dismissive, is because there is all of this going on behind the scenes. And all of this that also in relationships, women are often the ones carrying and dealing with the fear of pregnancy. They're managing the birth control. They're managing their reproductive health, and men just kind of leave it up to the women a lot of the time to take care of it. And that's another like invisible burden that women carry in a lot of relationships. I don't want to say all relationships because I think, in healthy relationships, men certainly bear the burden of birth control and family planning and all of that good stuff. But I think a lot of the time that's something that's just kind of like, oh, well, it's her body, so she's dealing with the birth control or the whatever, whatever. That is another piece of like almost going back to what we were talking about with, well, I worked today or I had a long day at work, that it's like you don't even know the invisible burden that a woman's
Mm-hmm.
carrying to
That's
protect
so
you in your
powerful.
relationship.
I would go so far as to say, even just listening to you, that like if if you're with somebody who is just like, ew, period, like won't even talk about it, like that's deeply misogynistic listening
To
to
me,
you.
it's the
Like
biggest red flag.
like, to me, like, I would just run from, I mean, again, I'm not saying like, "Hey," again, it's your body, and like, I'm not saying, "Hey," that they should be an integral part of your routine or something, although, again, I do think there is a sacredness there, and I think there's a closeness. I mean, there is something there, frankly, that more men should be more attuned to their, I think it would go a long way in relationships as well, just to again, you may never understand exactly, but you can be there and support her,
Yeah.
but above all, make her not think she's gross and disgusting for her body. Like doing what it's
Yeah.
supposed to do, bringing your kids potentially in this world, and you can't even talk about it. Like you're proud of the fact that you don't know how to buy tampons or something. Like, oh, I can't do that. That I like what? Like,
Yeah.
my
Well,
first question is what, tell me, show me what you need. Like, this way when I
yeah.
go to the store, I can make sure I have it. At my
And
house, I have some of your product at my house, whatever,
yes. Oh my
like
gosh,
what is wrong
how
with that?
kind
Like,
would that be if like something happened and you were at a boyfriend's house and it's like, fuck, and I don't have anything and he's like, "Don't worry about it. I got you." That would be like the coolest thing. Like even
so
hearing
be
that,
that
I'm
way,
like,
man. Like, it's not
it
that
seems
hard.
like such a like, "Oh, I have an extra toothbrush, don't worry about it." That it's like, it's just something that you should probably have just in case. Like, do you also not have like female friends that maybe experience this, or
Or
trans
did
men
you want
friends
women
that
to sleep
maybe
over?
experience
Like,
this? Yeah,
or
exactly,
would you like
exactly.
women to sleep over at your house? This
Yes.
is a way to show. Again, now we're probably
You're
giving
welcome
some
here.
negative
You're
people.
wanted here.
Yeah, like, or just I'm thoughtful. Like,
Yeah.
I see you. I fucking see you. Like, I don't fully
Yeah.
understand it, but I see you, and I want you to feel as good as you can about who you are. What is so
Yeah.
fucking wrong with that? Like, this is like, well, I mean, it's like a sixth of every woman's life, essentially, from the time they're 12 till they're 50-ish. I don't know. Like, literal. I mean, again, depending on, everybody's different, but
Yeah.
once a month for 3 or 4 days. I mean, that's roughly, every 28 days. That's about a sixth of one's life. I mean, but to
Yeah.
completely ignore, it's kind of ludicrous when you think about it that way. Like something that
I'll
literally
also
occurs.
say, yeah, once a month, and I would say, depending, like going back to how every woman's so different, I think 3 to 4 days is lucky. I
Really?
would say
Okay.
like 7 to 9 is probably more common, but different people, again, different people.
Sure, everybody's
But
different. So, but yeah, so even a
yes.
quarter of your life, and we don't even talk about it. Like men are so ignorant about that. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't even know where that comes from, other than I don't know. Like, I guess it's learned behavior from like parents, like their fathers. I don't know. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
experience that because I didn't really grow up with a father. So there was no, this is icky or not icky. It just is like it's
Yeah.
you're
I think there's
that's part of your body.
something
I don't know.
right. There is something like weirdly embarrassing about it, especially when you're younger. And I think it's because, I mean, I don't know. I don't think anyone ever told me, like, be embarrassed about this or, like, be secretive about it. But there is some message that women receive about, like, it's not something you talk about publicly. Like, you should be quiet about it. You should keep it to yourself. And I think on one hand, like, hygiene and bathroom behaviors. Like, yeah, you don't necessarily talk about that
Yeah,
in quote unquote polite company. But at the same time, it's like it has been put in its own category in a certain sense. And I think that it's probably from both sides of the spectrum, right? Like mothers or people, because I'm sure plenty of women are taught about this from people who aren't necessarily their mothers, but largely mothers telling daughters, like, don't talk about it, like I'm sure it's perpetuated for women as well. And I know, like, I've heard horror stories of friends and more like friends' moms who didn't know what it was and thought they were dying when they got their first period because they were like, I'm bleeding out. Something wrong is happening. Like one of my best friends, her mom, that happened to her. And she said that she like ran downstairs, called for her mom, was like, something's wrong. We need to go to the hospital. And her mom got mad at her and scolded her for talking about it publicly. And she like had to figure this out on her own. And so it's like all that to say, like, yes, men are certainly a part of this like internalized misogyny and cycle of shaming periods, but women do that too. And I think we need to help uplift each other and normalize talking about it because it's normal. It is not
well,
just normal. It is
I
so, so common and so everyday for it to be something that you're shamed about. Like, it would literally be like shaming someone for needing to pee or poop. It's like, it's a human
yeah, I mean,
function.
here's the thing, like, if guys had periods, we would be talking about them. Like, "Holy shit, dude, you should have seen my bloody flow. Oh my god, like, I went through 3 pads yesterday. Like, it was a 3-pad day." Like, guys would be, like, all over this shit. Like, I mean,
It's
I
so
can't imagine.
true.
Maybe you girls do this, I don't know. Like, you can tell me if women do this. I cannot imagine you guys getting in a room and talking about your flow, but maybe
No.
I'm wrong, I
I
don't
mean,
know, but
I think it's not in that sense. And I think maybe that is just like a distinction between like traditionally men and women and different things, right? But I do know that we talk about, like, I know the differences between how I experience my period and my friends do. We know, like, those of us that are like synced up and those of us that aren't. And um another thing that's actually so cool, that's like one of my favorite things about being a woman, if you are in any public bathroom and there is anybody else in there and anyone says, "Oh my God, does anyone have a tampon?" Everyone in that bathroom immediately pulls their purse and is like, "Oh my God, let me look." And then inevitably someone's like, "I got you, girl." And it's just like the most
mm,
community you would ever see because it's like everyone has been there. Everyone knows what that is. No one's going to think twice about it. Like, "Girl, I got you. You're good." And it's just like everyone jumps to action when that happens. And like it gives me goosebumps thinking about, because the amount of like friends that I've made in the restaurant or bar bathroom because I just happen to have a tampon, and the amount of times that another woman has had my back. And I'm like, "Oh, let me get you a drink. Thanks so much." And it's like, you don't need to do that. Like, we got you.
that's awesome.
This
That's
is,
so awesome.
it's, yeah. And
Now, if
so
we were
it's
just all
like,
like that, if men would be like that too, it would be even better. Like, if we all could just
yeah,
be accepting of what a, what a what a better place. Again, no one should be ashamed for their bodies. Like,
right.
that should just be a fundamental. And I think, I think as especially as like inflation and stuff goes, even just 15 or $30 a month to just live. I mean, that's a tax on being alive too. Like,
Yep.
what do and one thing I will say, when I the last business I worked for, one of the things I'm proud of is I made sure that we had women's products in the, because it was just like 15 people and maybe 5 women in the company, but we had a fully stocked, like, tampons, pad, like everything.
Yeah.
I asked, what do we need? Order it from Amazon, so we would have it, because
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure we were friendly in that way. And people were,
Yeah.
the folks who worked there were like, wow, this is so nice, the very fact. But that should just be given, in my opinion. Like, that
Yeah.
should just be something that is everywhere, and
Well, it'd
really
be like
shouldn't
not
be.
having toilet paper.
Right.
Right? It's like, no. Every every place has toilet paper. That's a given.
Right, we're not talking about, like, mouthwash and mints. Like, this is, like,
Yeah.
deliver the basics, like, for
Yeah.
for for life and happiness and safety and security and, well, this was we should
Yeah.
absolutely do a full episode on
Yeah.
this. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it could be
yeah.
very interesting to see what comes out. But, this one is a good one, because I have definitely said this, and I'm curious your thoughts. So, um this usually follows, saying something relatively insensitive, or but relax. I was just joking, or it was just a joke. Um, and it works best right after you've said something and this is I'll just read what the little blurb says. This one works
Mhm.
best right after you have offended her entire existence. You say it with that smug smile, thinking it'll smooth things over. What it actually does doubles the damage and adds a bonus round. She's not laughing, she's memorizing every word for later use in court. And then the little box says, if you dare try this during PMS, let us know how it ends.
Yeah.
Um, which I don't know. I have definitely backed, not. I've definitely backed away from saying that, like making a comment and then just saying, no, I was just joking. Although most of the time I really wasn't joking, I was just being insensitive. But that was a way I played it off. I don't think I do that anymore. I think this is one I
Yeah.
haven't used. But what comes up for you? I mean, I'm sure you've heard friends and stuff say, and folks have said, maybe as significant others have said it as well. But what comes up for you with this one, Reese?
Yeah, I think if someone says, "I'm just joking," 9 times out of 10, they weren't joking. The other 1 out of 10 time where someone actually is joking, they're not a very funny person. I think what I think is so interesting about this is a lot of the time when people aren't very funny, they are mean instead. And they think being mean with like a sarcastic lilt in their voice is making a joke. But it's like, where where was the joke? That's not actually funny. Um and so I would just caution someone, like, if you're going to say I was joking, make sure they laughed. Like, is it the point of joking around and the point of comedy is to make people laugh. So the next time you say, I was just joking, kind of a self-report that you're not all that funny, dude. You didn't make anyone laugh. Or I think the other end of the spectrum is it's just such an easy, like, then you shouldn't feel hurt about it. And to me, also, it's like, even if you were joking or not, like intent versus impact. If someone says something that hurts my feelings, it's like, I don't care if you thought that it was funny or not. It wasn't funny to me, and it hurt my feelings. And you should care more about the fact that you hurt my feelings than the fact that you didn't mean to. Like, okay, it was a joke. It hurt my feelings. Still apologize? Like, even if it was a joke, why does that mean I shouldn't be hurt? Like,
Well, and
you can be
was it
joking.
funny? Like, what
Yeah,
exactly? Who's the object of the joke? Like, tell me what's
right.
funny about this joke. Like,
Well, and
I don't know what you,
Anthony
or just I don't
Jeselnik,
understand your joke. Help me
yeah,
understand and see what
help me
people say.
understand
Right?
then. Yeah, Anthony Jeselnik, who's a very, like, like, offensive comedian guy, right? Like, he has the jokes about, like, killing babies and stuff that it's, like, the classic, like, this is horrible when you hear from comedians. And he was recently asked about this because it's certainly something that's coming up a lot in the comedy world about, like, being offensive and, like, shouldn't comedians be allowed to say anything? And I think it's Andy Warhol is who he quoted, who said, good art is getting away with it. And Anthony Jeselnik said, that's good comedy too. You have to get away with it. It doesn't matter if you're being offensive or not. It matters if it's funny. Because people are willing to laugh at themselves. People will absolutely be the butt of the joke if you make them laugh and if they think it's funny. But if it's not funny, then it's just mean. And I really resonated with that because I think obviously interpersonally it's slightly different than a professional comedian, but it's like, yeah, comedians should be allowed to joke about everything. And we don't want to be the, woke police and cancel culture everyone because I think especially when it comes to comedy and media, like as soon as you start cracking down on comedians and media, then you get into free speech issues. But I thought that that was just such a good point. That was like, these young up and coming comedians are going for claps. They're not going for laughs. And that's not comedy. And I think very much the same thing here. Like, if it was a joke, even if you were intending to joke, you didn't get away with it. Therefore, it wasn't funny. It wasn't a good joke.
I agree. And true comedy, you don't try to make people laugh. Like, if you're trying to make somebody laugh, you're probably not going to be able to do it. It either comes out of you or it doesn't. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, in my anytime I've made people laugh, I was never trying to make them laugh. I just went with it.
Yeah.
When I tried to make
Yeah.
them laugh, it usually falls flat. I don't think I've ever said this. I mean, just thinking in my own life, I don't actually think I was ever joking when I said that I was joking. It was just a way to uh, backpedal without, while saving face.
Yeah.
When I and again, I don't know that this is something I used a whole bunch in the past. I mean, I definitely have said it before, which is why I brought it up.
Hmm.
But it was really more of a oh shit, I touched a live wire. Let me just back away from this. Like I somehow the and rather than just being an adult and like, wow, I didn't really hear myself say that. I could see where that, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
Like I have to pull I have to save, it's an ego thing, right? I have to save face.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can't be wrong. Like, yeah, I said something stupid. I mean, the right answer is damn. My mouth engaged before my brain did. That's really insensitive.
Right.
Like, I didn't mean anything by it. Or, hey, wow, I just heard how that sounded, and really, I want to apologize. Like, what is
Yes.
wrong?
Or like,
Like, why
man,
can't we just be
foot in
honest
my
about it? Like,
mouth.
that's a
So sorry.
holy shit. Like, I don't even know that came out wrong. That's not what I meant at all. Here's what I really meant.
Yeah.
Because I mean, listen, we can say things that we didn't mean. Like and I'm guilty. My brain, when my mouth engages, sometimes it's not with the brain engaged. And
Yeah.
so, or if I get nervous and and I've gotten much, much better at that, but we're fucking human. I just want to remind
Yeah.
everyone of that. Like
Exactly.
none of us
Well,
gets out of this alive, at least not in this form. So
right.
like, let's be
And
honest with, but yeah,
yeah, no, I completely agree. And I really loved your point about like, it's not even necessarily that you said something hurtful that's the problem. It's doubling down on it to be dismissive that's the problem. Human relationships, like we are all humans. We're all going to fuck up. We're all going to put our foot in our mouths. We're all going to say something that's like, I did not think about how that was going to sound, or I just heard myself say that and that was really bad actually, and I'm sorry. Like, it's going to happen. Human relationships are built to be flexible. They're built to bend. But being able to bend and move forward is based in acknowledgement and repair. And if you don't acknowledge the hurt, you can't repair the hurt. And then that becomes a wound that festers as opposed to a wound that has a Band-Aid on top of it that can heal healthily. Like, no one's asking you to be perfect and never say something upsetting. Literally, I did this on Tuesday. And I was so embarrassed and I felt so bad. I made a joke at my good friend. We were watching a movie together and he was struggling with the subtitles. And I was like, okay, come on, you're smarter than this. The subtitles are down there. There you go, my friend. And everyone was kind of like, ooh, damn, Reese, like that came out harsh. And I was like, you're so right. That did come out harsher than I intended it to. I am so sorry. I love you dearly. Like, my bee. And he was like, don't worry
yeah.
about it. Not a big deal.
I was just teasing.
Like,
Yeah, but what a beautiful repair. Like, I was just kidding. Dang, that really, like, and again, when you know somebody really well, that's how you can joke like that, of course.
right.
But at the same time, if it was just you and him, it might have been different too, because you might not have
Yes.
felt the same. But when you do it in front of other people, like now all of a sudden, that I love how you repaired that. That's just such a beautiful thing. And notice the response, like, oh no, it's okay, I get it. But you made it clear
Yeah.
what was, that, hey, gosh, wow, I was a little bitch there. That's not what I meant. I was
Yeah.
just teasing you. Like, come on, buddy, it's down there. You can do this. It was meant to be.
Yeah.
And I can totally hear you. I totally get the tone of all of that. And I can see where that might not feel good to someone. So, but what a
Right.
beautiful example of how to just be a nice human being, a kind, loving, just, I don't want to say good, because my thing about good, bad, but just
Right.
being an authentic, nice, kind human being who is not out to score points on other people, but is just having fun, you know? And again,
Yeah.
sometimes I mean, in the past, I have been very, very sarcastic in my past, and I'm not as sarcastic as I used to be. In fact, because to me, sarcasm, I don't like sarcasm, I've come to realize. Like, it doesn't feel good when people are sarcastic to me. Maybe because, I mean, that is one thing neurodivergent people can struggle with
Yeah.
is sarcasm. Uh, I struggle with sarcasm very much so. Uh, and so I realized, but yet I would lean to it and would be very sarcastic and make these biting comments and things. And one day I said to myself, well, why am I doing this? Like, who am I
Yeah.
trying to impress exactly? Um, and so now I say nice things to people. I'm not sarcastic at
Yeah.
all for them. I mean, I might be sarcastic about a meeting, like, oh, wasn't that a fun meeting? But never about people or their looks or the way I might have been in the past. I don't know. And I think,
Yeah.
you know, and even that, I mean, that's sort of a sarcastic comment, right? But you immediately realized how it could be taken poorly. And it's okay to make those because those are fun when you're in the in group and it's an in thing where because when you're with friends, what you said doesn't mean what you said, right? It's a joke. It's poking fun at each other in a fun way, and so at that point, it's no longer. That's where words have a different meaning, right? Like the
Yeah.
meaning we make of things. It's all about the meaning, and you made sure to make sure your meaning was clear because you didn't want it to be you didn't want somebody to think negatively that you felt that way. So I
Right.
love that. I think it's such a good example of, and there's probably people who are like, oh, I shouldn't have to do that. Like, oh, people should, and that's fine. I mean, you can be that way, but I don't know. I think it's kinder to just be nice and, you know, if you do say something too far, just say it. Shit, that was too far.
Yeah.
Boom. I'm
Well,
sorry.
and if you don't want to have to be that way, and you want to surround yourself with really thick skinned people that are never going to be upset by anything you say, I would think about why. Because it's like, do you never want to be wrong? Do you want to be surrounded by yes men all the time? Do you want to be surrounded by people who are emotionally closed off and can't be vulnerable with you and share when something does hurt? Because exactly like you said, we're all human. We're gonna hurt each other. Um, and if you
Or
feel
even
like
worse,
it
do
should
they not?
just be if you feel like it should just be a given, like just assume that I have good intent. You shouldn't you should just assume my good intent. It's like it's more complicated than that, and you're really going to close yourself off to the depth of certain connections, and you're allowed to want that. You're allowed to do that, but I would say just look around you, and are the quality of your relationships as fulfilling as maybe you might want? Because I think it'll close you off to some really beautiful people.
Absolutely. Because how are people going to feel safe around you? Like
Yeah.
if you're sarcastic and biting, and why are they gonna? They're not gonna. They're not gonna. Well, at least I won't say them. I mean, if somebody's always sarcastic, I'm not gonna share stuff with them because how
Yeah.
do I? They might use it against me later, or I don't think you're a serious person when you do that. Like you don't seem very empathetic. You don't seem very nice, and I agree with you. Why if you surround part of who I think a way to select your friends are the ones who, when you do say something that you wish you hadn't, that they forgive you quickly because they
Mm,
know who you are. Like at the end of the
yeah.
day, because I don't want to be in a situation where I have to walk on eggshells all the time. Like every word I say, I have to weigh carefully because this person has negative. They're so touchy that anything I say could be used against me. Like that's not a healthy relate. Yes, we should be kind to each other, and we shouldn't say shitty things. Like that's just a given. But
Yeah.
we should also have the freedom to be ourselves. And if we say something that's less than lovely, that we have the wherewithal to say, "Fuck, I fucked up. I'm so sorry. It's not what I meant." And the other people are like, "Yeah, I know you didn't, but I appreciate you saying, it didn't feel good, and I'm so glad you acknowledged that. But I
Yeah.
appreciate that." And then don't do
Yeah.
it again or try not to do it again.
Right. Right. Well, and I think the other thing that you underline there too is like, and it actually, when you do the quick and easy, like quick repair, quick move on, and everyone's good, it frees you up to be safer to joke more. You actually can joke harder with people that do repair and move forward better because it's like, I feel safer to like push the envelope a little bit because I know if something does go wrong, like we'll be okay. And therefore, it's like, yeah, maybe I do make a risky joke sometimes, but that I wouldn't make with other people. But it's because of the safety that's cultivated in the in group, right? And you actually can go harder when you have that baseline safety, exactly like you said.
Yeah, and you can learn what to say and what not. Like that's how you learn where the lines are for you too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, how if somebody's like, "Hey, that didn't feel good," and here's why. You can be like, "Wow, okay, I see that. I'm not gonna. That's not. I
Yeah.
don't believe that. That's not what I meant. I can see where you would think that way." And I'm sorry, and I won't use that language any longer. It's like people who, I mean, one example that comes to my mind here, which is completely out of left field, but that's the way my mind works, is certain folks don't the tetragrammaton, right? It is considered a holy name, and so for devout folks, to Jewish folks, to use that name, regardless of how you feel about it, to try to pronounce the unpronounceable name, is insulting. And so you say Adonai instead, for example. And, it's not I might not believe that, right? That, I should be able to speak the divine name because I don't believe what you believe, but out of respect. It's hey, this could hurt somebody. It's important to them. So I'll use the word Adonai instead of pronouncing the tetragrammaton. Like, what
Yeah.
is wrong with like being respectful of what other people believe? Like, it's okay to say I don't believe that, so I don't need to follow that. And you're well within your rights to do that. But if you know something is distasteful or unlovely to someone else, and it doesn't harm, I mean, there is no harm to me to not saying the tetragrammaton versus saying Adonai.
Right.
It's, what I'm talking about. So it's just my own arrogance to be like, well, I'm going to do what I want to. And that's just not a
Yeah.
lovely way to be, right? I
I
mean,
agree.
and again, I don't know why that example came to mind, but,
No, I think it's a great one.
and if we should be like that with our friends, even if there's things that don't bother us. If we know it bothers a friend of ours and we want to remain friends, why wouldn't we be respectful of that? you know, and
Yeah.
not say things that are hurt that they don't like. Like, I don't like it when you do that. Why do you keep doing that? Well, what's the real answer to that? Because I don't care what you like. I like it, and it's more important to me to say what I like than it is to respect your feelings. Is ultimately what people are saying if
Yeah.
they're like that. So, do you really want to be friends with them? Um, would
Yeah.
be the big question. So, I think we got time for one more. This one. Well, I think we can end on this one if you're okay with that.
Yeah, that sounds
Um,
perfect.
and it's something that I know I've at least thought if I haven't said specifically. Um, and it's a very to me it's just a very childish thing to say, and it's from a very frustrated young part who uh I'm probably felt this way, when it was young, and it comes up every now and again. But it's I can't make you happy. And what the blurb here is the ultimate surrender disguised as helplessness. You've just announced your resignation from the job of being a caring partner. This isn't an admission of defeat, it's emotional abandonment with a bow on top. You've made your lack of effort you've made your lack of effort sound like her impossibility to please. Um, you just quit trying while making it to sound like it's her fault. You know, I can't make you
Mm.
happy. And I don't know, I like the blurb. I think it rings actually pretty true because
Yeah.
in those times, that's sort of what I've been saying. I think it comes more of frustration and a hurt part that, probably from childhood who there's probably a parent you couldn't make happy and you tried, and that part just feels like it's useless to try, so they give up. So I don't mean to throw shade on that part because it's a legit I understand why somebody would see that because they feel very, very frustrated. And it probably comes from
Right.
childhood and it probably comes from a lot of deeper things. But when you hear somebody say that to you, how does it register for you?
Yeah.
What comes up?
Um, it's interesting because this is the first one that I didn't immediately like fully understand why that might be so not problematic, but like just blatantly hurtful and unhelpful because to me, like my gut instinct was, okay, then we're done here. That I guess we're not a good match. If truly you think that you can't make me happy, I'll believe you. Like, believe someone when they tell you something. It's like, okay, thank you for being honest with me. goodbye. But then hearing the blurb and hearing what you're saying, it's like, okay, I see that it's like because your expectations are impossible is the subtext there. And I
Mhm.
do think that that is deeply unfair, that it is like, well, I'm never going to be able to be that, so you need to be more reasonable with me. You need to lower your expectations and settle with me. And I think I still kind of have the same response, that if someone said that to me that was basically like lower your expectations of me, I would kind of see that as like you admitting you can't be with me. You admitting you're not man enough for me. And that's okay. If you don't think that you can meet my expectations, great. Thanks for letting me know. I don't care if you think my expectations are too high or not. I've set those a long time ago. Well, and they evolve as we all grow and change, of course. And not to say that you should be unreasonable with your requests of a future partner, but I think for me, it would be very much like, okay, I've reached a point in my life where it's like I would so much rather be single than be with someone that it feels like I'm settling with at all. And if you don't meet my expectations and you really don't think that you could make me happy, then we're not a good match. And as hard as that may be, but it's like, okay. So I would almost just say like, don't say this unless you mean it. Because if someone said that to me, I think that would kind of be a game over moment. That is
Mm.
like, do you really think that my expectations are too high? And if they are and you really don't think you can meet them, we should not be together. But I would also say don't be with someone if you think their expectations are too high. You know, it's like people are allowed to want what they want in a relationship. Similarly, I mean, we've talked about this in a few other episodes, but like if someone has the expectation that their partner's 6 foot and you're 5'6", yeah, that sucks. But then you're not a good match. Even if you think it's unfair that someone wants to date someone who's 6 foot tall and you think that that's unfounded and unreasonable, it really doesn't matter because ultimately that's what they want. And if you can't meet it, then you shouldn't be together. And to tell someone their expectations are unreasonable is just making you look bad, I think. Because also, if it's like, I can't make you happy, and it's like, well, what are they really asking for? If you say that after someone's like, well, you hurt my feelings, and then you say, well, I can't make you happy, you're basically copping to the fact that you can't apologize and repair. Like, whatever you say that to is copping to the fact that you're incapable of doing that. So maybe
Yeah.
make sure that it's true before you say
Well, and I
that.
think, yeah, I think it depends on how it's like. It's one thing to have a genuine conversation, like, "Hey, let's talk about our relationship. It seems like I'm making. It seems like whatever you need, I'm not able to provide. You know, and it
Yeah,
feels like I mean, because first of all, I would challenge. I mean, first of all, it puts. First of all, I mean, if you really think about what if you take it at face value, I can't make you happy. So first of all, look at the position that I'm putting myself in, that I am the one who, first of all, that I have the ability to make you happy one way
right,
or another. So
right.
it's assuming somehow that my presence or I have some power over you is what it in
Yeah,
first of all is saying. Like, and I would say in a healthy relationship, there is no making me happy. It's, doing things that cause me distress is, I would say, is probably worse than you needing to make me happy, because why are you the arbiter? Like, yeah, do I want to be happy? Yes, but really, you could make me unhappy by doing things I don't like, and even then, I don't know that you're making me unhappy. You might just be annoying me,
right.
or things that I don't want to have to do. You're making my life harder, but there's really nothing you should do to make me. It's not your job to. It's not my job to make you happy in the first place. So in some senses, it's
Totally.
a cop out from the beginning. But let's attack or address the sort of the frustration that's underneath it, because
Yeah.
and again, it's different if we're having a real conversation, like, is this working? Like, it seems like you need somebody who is very close to you all the time and doesn't want space, and I don't know that I can fill that need. That seems like that's what I don't know if I can meet that expectation. And so it's rather than having it be about needs or making you happy, it's, I don't know if I can meet your expectation. Good, because that's what
Yeah.
it is. It's I'd argue you don't have a need. But your expectation is if we're in this relationship, we're spending 3 hours of quality time on the couch together watching TV. That's that's my expectation. That's what it means to me that we're close. Well, that I think it's fair to say, okay, maybe I can't meet your expectation there. In other words, I I I am not willing to do what you need or what your expectations are. I'm not willing to meet those because I don't want to sit here for 3 hours a day watching TV with you. That doesn't work. That's not what I'm looking for in a relationship. If
Right.
that's what you need, I cannot meet that expectation. I choose not to. It's not something I want to do. So maybe
Right.
this isn't a good match. That's a very different thing versus where I would see this in the times I've either thought it or have said it on a few occasions has been in basically an emotional conversation where I was doing exactly what the author was suggesting, which is I'm whining. I'm basically saying you have I can't meet your needs, and it's like I'm putting the martyrdom on me. I'm s- I'm 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 subtly suggesting that your needs or your wants, what you want, your expectations are irrational, and you're dumb for having them, and so therefore I'm going to take my I can't meet them, and it's a whiny way of just like dropping the ball and going home, like
Yeah.
and putting it on the other person rather than a true I think it's very different to say, listen, I'm not sure what's going on here. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, it's not something I want to do to sit and watch TV for 3 hours. If that's your expectation or, what you want out of a relationship or what you expect out of a relationship, then we're probably not a good fit. And so let's not, I care for you. I think you're a wonderful person. I think you deserve that because I don't think I don't think any of these demands are unreasonable. It's just,
Right.
is it for me? I mean,
Yeah.
in the same way, like some men want a trad wife. Okay, great. That's not for me. But that doesn't but it would be wrong for me to to pretend to be that and then say you're insane for wanting this. I mean, again, I
Yeah.
have no judgment on whether you want this or you want to be this or you don't. But let's just fucking match. That's all.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you
Well,
want this, I want this, cool. Like, what are your needs? And
yeah.
it doesn't have to be laser perfect, and there's always compromises. But this to me is just a pure cop out when in the way it's used. No, again, it's
Yeah.
a hey, am I able to? The question is I seem to be doing a lot that seems to make you unhappy. Like you don't seem to enjoy what you don't seem to pick up what I'm putting down. And
Mhm.
is this systemic? Is this a good fit? I think that's a mature conversation. I don't think when it's
Yeah.
used in this way, it's the same thing. So I think you went too mature. Maybe I think where this is mostly used.
Sure,
Because
sure,
I think
sure.
the way you were looking at it is a true way to use it. Like, hey, again, I question the making you happy thing because that again puts more power
Yeah,
on
I
me than I
agree.
want, frankly. Because if I have to make you happy, I don't want to be in this relationship. Like I
Yeah,
now,
no.
can I increase your happiness? Can we do life together and we are both ascending and are happy? Yeah, I want that. I want to add to your happiness, but I can't make or unmake and I don't want to do anything to take away from your happiness. I don't want to make you
Right.
uncomfortable. I don't want to do things that you dislike. I don't want to make your life more difficult. But it's not my job to make you happy. And vice versa. It's not your job
Right.
to make me happy. Now, and that is the how I see it. But I think a lot of
I
times this
agree.
is used as a cop out exactly as he put here. And I
Yeah.
have used it in that way. And it's just a part that's so frustrated and can't deal anymore. So it uses this you know, as a way to shut down the conversation. It's not mature. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. If it is true, that hey, your expectations are not in line with what I'm able to give you or choose to give you, yeah, we're probably not a good fit. So why don't we get this? It's like people always I mean, I don't have a problem with somebody in their Tinder profile saying 6 foot or more. That's all I want. You know, like fuck yeah. Like I'd rather that than you being like, you know, because what it says is I know my value, I know what I want, and I'm gonna get that. And I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Like
I'm like,
you want
"Do
somebody with
are
green
we gonna
eyes.
be best friends? Like, is that someone that I think I would vibe with and wanna hang with? Maybe not,
No,
but
probably not.
also, like, I'm glad that I understand."
Well, it just saves everybody time. Like, I
Yeah.
really think dating profiles should absolutely be the Nigerian 419, you know, uh, scam letter writing kind of philosophy, which is I want a specific type of person. I am going to put as much in my profile to attract what I want and push away what I don't want. But, a lot of people who are online dating are very insecure, and it's like, well, anyone is good enough. This is what I really want, but you know what? No, fuck that. Be what you want. Get what you want.
Yeah.
Like, you deserve it.
Yeah.
I don't care what you want. I mean,
Yeah.
unless it's illegal or immoral, then we got a problem.
Right.
But aside from that,
Yeah.
like, it's not illegal or
Well,
immoral to want a 6'3" guy, or
no.
to want a skinny guy, or to want a redhead, or whatever. I mean, or no, I guess there's places you could go where you fetishize things, and I think that's a
Right.
different conversation entirely. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
Asian
Yeah. Yeah.
women probably get that a lot. I'm sure get a lot of
Yeah.
fetishization, but uh, again, I like to draw lines. There's things there that we should cover.
Totally.
That's a different conversation. But I'm saying,
Yeah.
hey, I like tall guys. I like skinny women. Whatever. Not saying it's a right thing or a bad thing or a good thing. I'm not judging it, but if it's so important to you that you're not going to be able to get around it, then just put that up front, dude.
I would like to
Like,
know. Yeah. Well, and I also
like, I
totally
like to be
agree
choked.
with you.
Like, if
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
if that's super important to you, like, and it's a deal breaker, then fucking put it on. Somehow find a way to make that clear very quickly.
Right.
Because, like, if that's what makes you tick, no judgment, cool. Like, but if that's something that's so important to you that, like, if I don't get that, like, I'm not going to be fulfilled. Okay, then let's talk about that, because
Yeah.
I should know that. Like, and
Yeah.
if I absolutely don't want to choke people, then we're probably not compatibly sexually in that case.
Yep.
And so and it's not saying, hey, you have to do this on day one, but, like, this is something
No.
that I
Yeah.
dig. And if it's something you don't dig and is icky to you, you know, let's put cards on the table and move forward. And I
Yes.
think, those are all good things, and I think we'd be better off if we did put them in our dating profile. Of course, the problem there
Yeah.
is people are going to take it too far, and I don't think we need to
Well,
see
and too
profiles with all
picky
this
and
too much shit in it,
yeah.
and like, I don't, or maybe we should. I don't know. I'm curious what other people think on that.
Yeah.
As
I
somebody who's
think
never online dated, I don't know, so maybe I'm talking out of my
there
ass here,
is
but
a line, I think, where there is a little bit of like people getting so picky to the point of like, okay, what's reasonable or unreasonable? And I agree with you with what you said earlier in terms of like what's a non-negotiable versus like, okay, this would be nice, but it's not like a deal breaker for me. And if the 3 hours on the couch together every night is a non-negotiable, okay, then yeah, maybe this isn't a good match. But it's like, can it be 2? And would that still be like, is that a place we can meet in the middle? You know, I think absolutely compromise has to go into this. And I think sometimes with dating profiles, because it's the internet and because it's behind a screen and because there's just so many people that you swipe through, it just gets to a point of desensitization where people are unreasonably picky about unimportant things. And so I think it's just hard to talk about people's actual non-negotiables in a social media context because I think, at least I would like to think, most people's non-negotiables are a little bit more indescribable in the sense that it's like a non-negotiable for me is like being kind, but how do you really list that on it?
yeah,
It's
how
like
are you
there's
going to
certain
weed that
things
out,
that
right?
right.
Absolutely,
So
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
and if you
totally.
see someone who has a non-negotiable that is like blue eyes, now I'm thinking of the TikTok song, I'm looking for a guy in finance, 6'5", blue eyes. And it's like, if that's what you're looking for, great. But to me, are those non-negotiables? And if so, like that does say something about you. But what really does non-negotiable mean? And I totally agree on like just the complexity of it all, that it's like, if you really, like when we're talking about can I make you happy, also totally agree. I think that about the relationship, right? Like no one else can really make you happy. This is about us supporting each other as we pursue our own happiness. We cannot do that for one another. And I think that's certainly something that you and your partner need to be on the same page about. And hearing you talk about it, it is like, yeah, what is the underlying comment there that is, nothing I do could ever make you happy because you're so unreasonable. Like, there's no right thing to say. There's no right thing I could do. It's just gonna fail. which is just really defeatist and upsetting to hear, and also really undermining to something that your partner may very reasonably be asking for. And
I
of course,
agree.
exactly like you said, where there's lines, it's like there are lines of like reasonability, but, and also you get to decide what those are for you.
Yeah, I'm all for and yeah, you're so right in terms of there's some things that you can't tell until you know, treating servers nicely. Well, you're not gonna get that from a profile, right? I mean,
Well, and
so you
also,
go out on a date and you
I've
see somebody. Hmm?
sorry, there's just a Reddit story that I heard the other day that's like perfect
Oh, hit
about
me! I love
this.
Reddit
That
stories.
was a waitress was just telling like it must have been like r slash like server stories or whatever, and she works at a nice restaurant. This guy was on a date and had like a woman with him, and he was like, yeah, we're celebrating tonight, whatever, orders one of everything of the appetizers so she can try them all. She gets like the most expensive steak on the menu, they get a bottle of wine, like the whole nine. The waitress comes with the bill. He tips her $100 on like a $250 tab. And the girl that's there with him is, of course, like, oh my gosh, like starry eyed, like, that's so kind. And the waitress is like, oh my God, that's so generous. Thank you so much. Like, if there's anything else I can do for you, please let me know. Whatever, whatever. They leave. 30 seconds later, the guy walks back in and is essentially like pulls the waitress aside and is like, hey, Toots, you understand. Mark that tip down to like $20, which was in the math of it, like a less than 10% tip from what was like a 35% tip. And he was like, you understand. And she was just kind of like, okay, like I don't know what else to do. So she goes in to do it and then was just kind of like, what just happened? And she was like, if it was just a normal customer, I'd kind of be like, whatever, like you get assholes and bad tippers. But she's like, I want to warn the girl. How do I warn the
Right,
girl?
right,
Because
right.
this guy was so clearly trying to be like, look at how nice I am to servers, but is an ass. She runs back outside with a receipt and is like, sir, I'm so sorry, but like to effectively lower your $100 tip to a $20 tip, I need you to re-sign this receipt for our records.
Oh, love
Otherwise it'll
it.
be a discrepancy. And of course now the girl can hear it and the guy's like so pissed and is like, well, I didn't do that. And she's like, okay, so just to clarify, you do want to originally keep your original $100 tip and not lower to $20 like you just came inside to say. So really long Reddit story that's like actually
I
really
love that.
satisfying to say.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good
Even
one.
with the being nice to waiters and stuff, it's like manipulators are being smart now about knowing what people are looking
They are,
for.
but that again, I think that
Bad people are
works,
bad
on a
people.
first date, but
Yeah,
eventually that shit, unless you're really,
you'll
really
learn.
good, that shit comes out. Now the
So
problem
true.
is do people want to know it though? Like, are they willing to accept it? I don't know. A tiger can't. My view is it as within, so without. So
Yeah.
you can pretend, but eventually the truth is always nothing's hidden that won't be revealed. It's in the Bible, and Jesus said it, and I agree with it. There's nothing that's hidden
Yeah.
that won't be revealed eventually, and uh these things, but it's interesting to know, it's like anything else. It's like AI detection, right? Like
Yeah.
there's always escalation. So, oh, I got to be nice to but you can see the thought process. Like, oh, well, women like it when people are nice to servers, so I'm going to be nice to servers. Like, what? You can't just be nice to, like, what is wrong with just being generous for the fucking sake of being generous? Because you're a good person and like you like to be generous and you like to do nice things
Yeah.
for people. Like why else would you have money? Like, that is the whole reason. Like, I do want a lot of money, but not for me, because I don't honestly, money to me is just a means to an end. It's just
Yeah.
numbers on a ledger. But dude, I would love to go in and give $100 tips to everybody. Like,
Yeah.
that would be so incredible. Like, I wish I had that kind of money to just be able to do that. Like,
Yeah.
to just, literally when somebody does something, just make somebody's day, buy people's, and yes, I could do it. and I should do it, actually. I should just do it anyway, because you have to be who you want to be before you're that person anyway. That's a good lesson to remember. You want abundance, then be abundant ahead of time. You don't wait till after you're
Yeah.
abundant to be abundant, really. So it's a good lesson for me, but uh, preach myself happy in some senses. But oh, wow, very, very. We went all over the place today. I don't know,
Yeah.
what are your takeaways? So I'm very curious to hear, how did this compare to you for some of the men's ones, and what are
Yeah.
your thoughts?
I agree, like, maybe not as, like, clever and kind of witty as the other one, but honestly, kind of pleasantly surprised because I was expecting this to be a little, like, red pill incel alpha bro coded when originally I heard it and we were talking about this idea for the 2 episodes. But I think a lot of the blurbs are actually really insightful as to why saying this does piss women off and why maybe you should think about certain things before you say them. And I am pleasantly surprised in that it's like, if a guy were to buy this to be like, yeah, how do I piss off women? Maybe he'd learned something, which was cool to hear. And there are certain things that I think I learned about myself too, in that, why does that piss me off when someone says that? It's like, no, it's because this really is what that carries for me. And it's okay for certain things to piss you off, but I thought a little bit deeper about certain things than I think I had before, which is always a good thing to do and a good exercise. So thank you, Dennis, for bringing this today and for pissing me off, I guess, in a non-pissing me off way.
No, I love your insight to it, and yeah, and I tried to pick ones that I've actually said,
Mhm.
because they're genuine. I don't mind telling on myself because I'm a work in progress, and I'm not perfect, and uh but I am happy that, looking at the 6 or so that we went through, these are not things I could see myself regularly saying anymore. I have said,
Right.
I don't know that I've ever said the period one. I might have thought it way back in the day, but I don't think I've ever
Yeah.
said that, but mainly because I'm sure that growing up, that would have been like the hottest of sockets. And if I touched that socket, like, I would have been fucking zapped if I had had, if I had had a father who was a misogynist who was saying that, maybe it would have been different and I would have thought it was
Yeah.
okay and would have used that a lot more. But and again, it's not to me. Listen, I'm no more enlightened than anyone else. I'm just trying. That's all. I'm working on myself and every day getting better. So, but love it. Love
Yeah.
hearing your insights, and would love the thoughts of our audience. What of these resonated with you? Have you gone through these? What are some that we missed? What are some other good
Yeah.
ones that you hear that just make you see red? Um, but yeah, for me, thank you for just bringing everything into this. Your experiences, your honesty, and for being so open with it. I
Yeah.
think this was really cool. I loved hearing about it.
I agree. And of course, we'll link the book down below. So if you want to check it out, support the authors, the piss off crew, I suppose, which is funny. It will be
Yeah,
linked down
I
below
gotta give it
for
up
your
to the piss off.
perusal.
I gotta give it up for the piss off cruise, despite the silly ass name. I actually appreciate the thought that went into this
Yeah.
this little Amazon book. It's actually deeper than just cute. It's, there's real truth in there, and no, honestly, I think we could go through just about any of them and talk about it. So, good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff to our audience. We love you
Yeah.
as always. Tell us what you love, what you hate. We want to hear from you. And until next week, I'm Dennis, and
Yes.
it's
Thank you
so
all for being
good to be
here.
here. Reese, close us out,
Yep.
Queen.
Thank you all for being here. Dennis, as always, thank you for being here. And yep, just like Dennis said, let us know anything and everything. And we will see you all next time.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bow Down is a weekly podcast from the Cohere Collective that explores esoteric and empowered feminism.
Please subscribe to Bow Down wherever you may be listening. And if you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a like, a 5-star rating, and a review. And if there's anyone you think would enjoy this episode, or maybe just needs to hear it, please share it.
If you want to stay up to date on all things Bow Down, you can follow the Cohere Collective on any social media platform at the Cohere Collective, and check out other content and offerings at www.thecoherecollective.com.
If you're interested in working with Reese to find and pursue your purpose, I encourage you to head to www www.thecoherecollective.com/life-coaching.
If you're interested in working with Dennis to shed your mask and embrace your desires, you can email Dennis at dennis@theheartstoybox.com.
Huge thank you to Jack Corbett for Bow Down's music. You can find him on Instagram at j.corbe. Thank you all for joining us today. We're so glad you're here.
And as always, we hope you feel like you are living more coherently. And until next time, love.